Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hare Krishna. We're studying Srimad Bhagavatam Canto 2, Chapter 6, entitled Purusha Sukta Confirmed, Text 28. And today's May 10th, 2020. Text 28, Chapter 6, Canto 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Iti Sambrita Sambara Purusha Avayavai Aham Tameva Purusham Yagyam Tena Eva Ayajam Ishvaram Iti Sambrita Sambara Purusha Vayaver Aham Tameva Purusham Yagyam Tenaivaya Jam Ishvaram Iti Sambrita Sambara Purusha Vayaveraham Tameva Purusham Yagyam Tenaivaya Jama Ishvaram Iti Sambrita Sambara Purusha Vayaveraham Tameva Purusham Yagyam Tenaivaya Jam Ishvaram Iti Sambrita Sambara Purusha Vayaveraham Tameva Purusham Yagyam Tenaivaya Jayam Ishvaram
Iti Sambrita Sambhara Purusha Vayaveraham Tameva Purusham Yagnam Tenaivaya Jamishvaram
Iti Sambrita Sambara Purusha Vayaveraham Tameva Purusham Yagyam Tenaivaya Jamishvaram
Iti Sambrita Sambara
Iti Sambrita Sambara
Purusha Vayaveraham Tameva Purusham Yagnam Tenaivaya Jamishvaram
Iti Sambrita Sambara
Iti Sambrita Sambara
Purusha Vayaveraham
Tameva Purusham Yagyam
Tenaivaya Jam Ishvaram
Tenaivaya Jamishvaram. Iti. Thus, Sambrita, executed, Sambara, equipped myself well. Purusha, the personality of Godhead. Avayavai, by the parts and parcels. Aham, I. Tam eva, unto him. Purusham, the personality of Godhead. Yagyam, the enjoyer of all sacrifices. Hena eva, by all those. Ayajam, worshipped. Ishvaram, the supreme controller. This is text 28 of chapter 6 of Canto 2 of Srimad Bhagavatam. The translation reads, thus I created the ingredients and paraphernalia for offering sacrifice out of the parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, the enjoyer of the sacrifice, and I perform the sacrifice to satisfy the Lord. Purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. People in general are always anxious to have peace of mind or peace in the world, but they do not know how to achieve such a standard of peace in the world. Such peace in the world is obtainable by performances of sacrifice and by practice of austerity. In the Bhagavad Gita, chapter 5, text 29, the following prescription is recommended. Bhoktaram yagistapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarva bhutanam gyatfamam shanti richati. Quote, the karma yogis know that the Supreme Lord is the factual enjoyer and maintainer of all sacrifices and of the austere life. They also know that the Lord is the ultimate proprietor of all the planets and is the factual friend of all living entities. Such knowledge gradually converts the karma yogis into pure devotees of the Lord through the association of unalloyed devotees, and thus they are able to be liberated from material bondage. End quote. Brahma, the original living being within the material world, taught us the way of sacrifice. The word sacrifice suggests dedication of one's own interest for satisfaction of a second person. That is the way of all activities. Every man is engaged in sacrificing his interest for others, either in the form of family, society, community, country, or the entire human society. But perfection of such sacrifices is attained when they are performed for the sake of the Supreme Person, the Lord. Because the Lord is the proprietor of everything, because the Lord is the friend of all living creatures, and because He is the maintainer of the performer of sacrifice, as well as the supplier of the ingredients of sacrifices, it is He only and no one else who should be satisfied by all sacrifices. The whole world is engaged in sacrificing energy for advancement of learning, social upliftment, economic development, and plans for total improvement of the human condition. But no one is interested in sacrificing for the sake of the Lord, as it is advised in the Bhagavad Gita. Therefore, there is no peace in the world. If men at all want peace in the world, they must practice sacrifice in the interest of the supreme proprietor and friend of all. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayamrupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Uttapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saganaragnatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitan Krishna Chaitanya Deva Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sagana Lalita Shri Vishakan Vitam Cha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radhakanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurange Radhe Vrindavaneshware Vishabhanu Sute Devi Panamami Hari Priye Panchakapati Yubhyascha Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanan Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaura Bhaktivinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Navottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamutirayat. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the very means of conquest, one should first offer respectful obeisances unto the personality of Godhead Narayan, and to Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, to Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva bhadreshu nicham bhagavata seveya bhagavat utamashloke bhakti bhavati naishtiki. Text 28, Canto 2, Chapter 6 of Srimad Bhagavatam. Iti sambrita sambara purusha vayaver aham tameva purusham yagyam tinae vayajamishwaram. Thus I created the ingredients and paraphernalia for offering sacrifice out of the parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, the enjoyer of the sacrifice, and I performed the sacrifice to satisfy the Lord. Hare Krishna. Well, just reading through, I noticed at least 5 times where Prabhupada uses the term peace in the world, and other terms about peace of mind. Peace in the world 5 times. So it's peace, everyone wants peace. Peace movements. Okay. So then Prabhupada, very fittingly, he quotes this verse from Bhagavad Gita that Prabhupada refers to this verse as the peace formula. Oktaram yagitapasam sarvaloka maheshwaram suridam sarvabhutanam yatfamam shanti richati. Yes, this is so Prabhupada describes this as the peace formula. So knowing, understanding, realizing Sri Krishna as the enjoyer. Krishna is the enjoyer, and we get that, and then either fully or gradually, and then we give up the ideas that I will enjoy. I am the enjoyer. Oktaram Yagitapasam Sarva Lokameshram, and Krishna is the supreme controller of all atoms and planets and energies. Aham Sarvasya Prabhu Ramatatsavam Pravartate Itima Famajantima Buddha Bhava Samandvita. Those who get that Krishna is the source of all energies, controller, enjoyer of all energies, naturally they dedicate their life to devotional service in me with heart and soul, with loving heart and soul. Itima Famajantima Buddha Bhava. With bhava, with feeling, they dedicate their lives to Krishna. And and so based on material ego, what's called in Sanskrit ahankara, or false ego, then we develop the conception that I am meant to be the enjoyer, I am meant to be the controller. In the 16th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has what we can call the soliloquy of the demon, the soliloquy of the materialist. It's just the opposite of this peace formula verse. Just the opposite of the peace formula verse. And Hare Krishna. So the peace formula verse, Krishna is the enjoyer, Sarvaloka Maheshwaram, Krishna is the controller. the soliloquy of the demon or the materialist, Ishvaraham will be, I am the controller, I'm the enjoyer, I'm perfect, I'm powerful, I'm happy. Okay, so all these false identifications, all these masks. And yeah, so spiritual life is about completely transforming the conception of who's meant to be the controller, who's meant to be the enjoyer, who is the controller, who's the enjoyer. This morning we were reading some verses from Prabhupada before we turn to japa about humility. Trinadapi sunichena taroiva sahishnuna amanina manadena kirtanya sadari. Right, so that this is for peace to be engaged in kirtan constantly, regularly, nityam bhagavata sevaya, then this mentality is required, recommended, to feel oneself more humble, lower than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, ready to offer all respects to others, wanting no respect for oneself. In such a state of mind, one can do kirtanya sadhari, one does kirtan constantly. So it's the opposite of the Ishvaraham Ahambhagi. I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer, I'll show I'm perfect, I'm powerful, I'm happy. I got it going on. So then in this peace formula verse, Gyatva Mam Shantim Richati. And again, in this purport, Prabhupada uses that term, peace in the world. We can feel Prabhupada's compassion. We can feel the compassion of Lord Brahma. Really wanting peace, not just lip service. So understanding Krishna is the controller, Krishna is the enjoyer, and Suridam Sarvadehina Sarvabhutanam. Krishna is he's the supreme friend of all living entities. It's described, Lord Kapiladev describes about the devotee of Krishna, Suridam Sarvadehinam. The devotee of Krishna is also the supreme friend of all living entities. Through Bhakti Yoga, through Srila Prabhupada, we get to realize how to really be a friend. Just like peace, oh, I want peace. Friend, I'll be your friend. Let's be friends, let's be friendly. Okay, so how to really spread peace, how to really be a friend. Prabhupada would sign thousands of his letters, your ever well-wisher. So Prabhupada's our ever well-wisher, because everything he's doing is meant to bring us to our real friend. Prabhupada uses, he translates the peace formula verse, the factual friend, Krishna, our real friend. Whatever we do in our whole sojourn, in our whole foolish, tragic sojourn in material existence, Krishna is following us as super soul, always giving us wise guidance, accompanying us. So getting that Krishna is my truest factual friend, and then the person who guides me to that realization is my true well-wisher. And that's how we can be true well-wishers. We guide people to our ever well-wisher. Srila Prabhupada wanting nothing other than the suffering conditioned souls to come to their true friend, to come to their true friend, Sri Krishna. So getting this, Krishna is meant to be the enjoyer. Krishna is the enjoyer and controller, and I can choose to be ignorant of that, and then the result is no peace. Then the result is no peace. As long as I retain any desire, Bhukti Mukti Siddhi Kami Sakali Ashanta. Any desire based on material ego, then I won't be peaceful. Again, it's not about good, bad, right, wrong, should do this. It's just like if if I'm holding an object and I were to let it go, gravity will pull it down. It's just the law of physics. So as long as I have any desire based on ahankara, vibhuda, atma, kartamiti, manyate, any desire based on false ego, even the desire to merge into the oneness and liberate myself, because that's also missing the real, because in Bhakti Yoga, the idea is not to get rid of ego. Ego means a sense of who we are. And we are someone. We are that atomic unit of sentience that animates the body. We are eternal spirit, soul, we're servants of Krishna. That's real ego. That's real ego. And so, yeah, so any desire outside of Krishna consciousness, even the desire to get rid of all desires in a non-personal way. In one sense, the desire to serve Krishna is not a desire. The desire to serve God, it's the natural condition of the living entity in its pure state. Still, we could use the term, that's spiritual desire. So as long as we retain any material desire, they will drive us crazy. They will prevent us. They will prevent us from the feeling of peace. It's just fact. It's just law. It's just spiritual laws. And we can, we can resist that. We can fight it. We can have protests about it for another year or 10 years or 30 years or 30 million lifetimes. And the fact will remain that as long as we retain any material desire based on the material mask, the material ego, then we won't be peaceful. Okay, that's it. And then we surrender that false ego, surrender to our real ego, spirit, soul, servants of Krishna, and then we're peaceful. And then we're peaceful. And so Krishna Bhakta Nishkama Ateva Shakta, really only the Bhakta or Bhaktin of Krishna is peaceful. So it's simple, Krishna conscious. Prabhupada would often say, Krishna consciousness is simple for the simple, complicated for the crooked. So why doesn't everyone just surrender material? Because we're attached. We're attached. Well, in the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada uses the term the material mask. Actually, in the newer versions, they edited that out. But anyway, so in the pre-78 version, Prabhupada uses the term the material mask. So that's the ahankara, material ego. So we're just like, that's a term we use a lot in Satvatove. Mask, advanced course, we use that a lot, mask. And so we're very attached to the different masks, how I appear to this person, how I appear in society. What will my friends think? What will this mean for my social status? What will this mean for my social status if not even I need to be loud or ostentatious, but just if in my life I'm taking a stand for, what I really want to do is chant Hare Krishna and study Bhagavad Gita and have kirtan. I just want to give my whole life to this Bhakti Yoga. What will my friends think? What will that mean for my image? Myself. That was because I had a sense back in my prasad consuming. I had eternal prasad consuming days, but back when my only service was about consuming prasad, and I was beginning to read Prabhupada's books back around 1980, 81, 82, and I had a sense. Oh, this is the highest philosophy. This is the purest lifestyle, and this brings those who practice it the peace and fulfillment and freedom that I'm looking for. So I had that sense, but I couldn't even acknowledge to myself that, like, yeah, I should try this. You know, so I need to, you know, well, I like their food, but, you know, I mean, this is a joke, right? I mean, you don't really believe this stuff about, you know, Krishna and chanting. So, it wasn't until I left State College, Pennsylvania, and I backpacked around Europe that I had enough distance from my masks related to society and friendship and love. I could actually do what my soul wanted to do, because from my soul, I could, oh, this is peaceful, this is liberating, right? But for my false ego, this is painful. This was so painful, I couldn't even conceive of it. In my particular circumstance, when I did finally give myself with some seriousness, moved into the Bhakti Yoga ashram outside of Tel Aviv in Ra'anana, Israel. And then actually, a few weeks later, I visited my family in the Philadelphia area. I got kidnapped, right? Because that's the thing, like like, what will my parents think if I do that? And so finally I had enough courage to actually take some step and make it kind of known. Again, not in a loud way, but just make it known. This is what I'm standing for in life, Krishna consciousness. This is what makes sense to me. Even though, as far as my ego, which is all about, I'm the controller, I got these life plans like that. Yeah, I'm surrendering myself to serve Krishna. Not that I did or doing it fully, but at least I'm standing for that product. This is what makes sense for me. I know that this group and that group will say, oh, you're a complete fool. You've gone crazy. What can I say though? This is what makes sense philosophically, as far as lifestyle, as far as actually giving peace for the soul. So this is the peace formula on the individual platform, community, family, world platform, and then to the extent that we're attached to our material attachments, we'll resist it. We'll resist it. This verse. Okay, so this peace formula verse that Prabhupada quotes in the purport. Again, this is an oft-quoted verse by Srila Prabhupada, and he gives it. I mean, the essence is the same, but he gives it a different translation than we get in Bhagavad Gita. And here he specifically says, the karma yogis know that the Supreme Lord is the factual endurer and maintainer of all sacrifices and of the austere life. Such knowledge gradually converts the karma yogis into pure devotees of the Lord through the association of unalloyed devotees, and thus they're able to be liberated from material bondage. Yes, so yeah, there was a discussion yesterday, and a few of these recent discussions. So karma yoga leads to bhakti yoga. The whole chapter 3 and chapter 5 of Bhagavad Gita is about that. Karma yoga leads to bhakti yoga. And all yogas, all genuine yogas lead to bhakti yoga. Okay? This is also just a fact. If we look at the source books of yoga, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, all the yogas are meant to lead to bhakti yoga. And so really the source of this peace that comes from giving ourselves to Krishna consciousness is that everything we do in this bhakti yoga, it frees us from the bondage of the modes of material nature. It's freeing. And anything we do not in bhakti yoga entangles us further. Yagyartat karmano yatra loko yam karma bandhana taratam karma kanteya mukta sangha samachara. So that's third chapter of Bhagavad Gita. This book, this peace formula is fifth chapter. So both chapters are a lot about like the continuum of karma yoga leading to bhakti. So yagyartat karmano yatra, work done for work done for Vishnu, for Krishna, Bhakti Yoga, that frees us from the modes of material, and it frees us from being tied up in knots and not at all peaceful. And anything done not in Bhakti Yoga, or, I mean, if we're practicing some process that genuinely leads to Bhakti Yoga, Yashastra Vimuchi Japartate Karta, Nasa Siddhimavapnoti, Nasukamna Prangati. If we're following some shastric process, okay, that kind of brings us towards goodness, that's also liberating. And Bhakti Yoga is the transcendent. Mamchiyo Vicharina, Bhakti Yogena Sevate Sagunan Samati Detan, Brahma Bhuyaya Kalpate. That we engage in devotional service and automatically the spirit soul is freed from the modes of material nature. So that's free, that's joyful, that's peaceful. And whatever our material calculations, anything we do outside of that structure, it's just like, oh, I'm in quicksand. Oh, let me struggle. Okay, I'm deeper in quicksand. We're in a web. Let me struggle. And just like, okay, like this, like guna, modes of nature means knot. It means rope, string. Just like we have a tangle of string. Okay, let me just pull it here and there. It just gets more tangled. It just gets more tangled. Okay, now there can be some string that we pull in a particular way that actually starts to disentangle it. And that would be the mode of sattva, or the mode of Shuddha sattva, full transcendence. And to the extent that I'm in a frenzy, let's just pull here and there. It's not gonna, it'll only be effective to tighten the knot in the heart. So we take guidance about how to dovetail our life, how to transform our habits and our ways of being in sattva and in transcendence. And then we vidyate vidyagrantis chijante sarasam shente chasya kamani trishta evatmanishvar. And that says, and that verse from the Bhagavatam says, and by this hearing and chanting process, sattvic living, transcendental bhakti yoga living, then the knot in the heart is pierced, like the Gordian knot is cut. The knot in the heart is pierced and all misgivings are slashed to pieces. And the chain of fruitive activities is terminated when one realizes the self, turning in a devotional attitude to Krishna. That's the liberating process. And spiritual intelligence means, as my life goes on, I'm more and more dedicating myself to a truly liberating process rather than a process. Because, yeah, this is, because everyone's going to work. Everyone's going to offer sacrifices. That's our nature, to do, to act. Right? Everyone's going to work. So intelligence, spiritual intelligence means that my work is freeing me from the bonds and from the ropes, from the bonds of material nature. And this is the science of self-realization. This is the science. This is the peace science, the liberation science. This is the science of how to work in such a way that everything we do liberates us from our material desires that are prisons of our own. So everything, work, we all have a propensity to give charity. It's very human to want to give charity. Everyone likes to give charity, even when people are very poor. It's like, oh, if I get rich, I'll give charity, like that. So it's very simple. So there's a way to give charity that's liberating for us and everyone involved. And there's a way to give charity that's entangling. There's a way to dance that's liberating, a way to dance that's entangling. There's a way to eat, same thing, that's liberating and that's entangling. There's a way to relate, a way to communicate. So this is it's a science of liberation. It's a science how to regain our original, how to reclaim, rediscover, realize our original spiritual form in the eternal liberated activity of devotional service. And so an analogy from the Bhagavatam that Prabhupada often uses is, so this science, it's all about learning the art and the science of watering the root of the tree. So watering the root, and so just like, oh, I want peace, but if our efforts for peace, just like if we take the tree metaphor, if I'll water this leaf. Oh, I love this branch. Oh, these twigs over here, I love them. I want peace. I'll be their friend. Okay, that's not the process. Even those twigs and branches and leaves, they don't benefit. That's not the process. So the twigs, the branches, and the leaves, they represent my family, my pets, my community, my nation, my football team. And even Prabhupada says, okay, the whole world is engaged in sacrificing energy for advancement of learning, social upliftment, economic development, and plans for total improvement of the human condition. I mean, oh yeah, I'm not just concerned about my family or my nation. I'm concerned about all humanity, the human condition. So it's all bodily. There's the concentrated bodily conception, which is pretty much the animal conception, right? Just about my body, eating, sleeping, mating, and defending from any attacks that threaten my eating, sleeping, and mating. Right? Okay, so that's the concentrated bodily conception, and then there's the extended bodily conception. My family, my children. So what's so important about these particular children or this particular wife or husband? Well, they're connected with this body. And the center of the universe is this body's enjoyment. So this community, this race, this gender, it's connected with this body. An example we give often, we can say, yes, I'll fight for America. Okay, well, that's noble, like a soldier. I mean, there's something noble about that, obviously. At the same time, why fight for America? Why not fight for Botswana? Now, I don't know if Botswana still exists. When I was growing up and I saw maps, there was a country called Botswana. It's just like a general reference here to make a philosophical point. So Botswana or Argentina, why would I fight for them? I'm American. Well, what's that mean? It means this particular body, this lump of blood and bones and skin, this took birth in a place that's currently called America. It wasn't called America 1,000 years ago. What will be a trillion years from now? Okay, so therefore, I based on the misidentification of the body, there's the expanded conception. Okay, and remember in 1989, I hand wrote a article and I sent it to Nagaraj Prabhu in Philadelphia. He was and still is very, very steady service. The editor of Back to Godhead, and they published the article. The article is called "A Farce of Fate." I was based in Israel at the time. Some of you have heard me tell this story. But anyhow, I was doing book distribution, Sankirtan full devotional attire, which was the safest attire in the villages we were going. look like a nice Jewish boy, I might get a nice knife in the back. So I was in dhoti, kurta, tilak, shaved head, sika, and maybe some people laughed, but they didn't put a knife in my back. So that was good. And so, and I was going, and it was the village of Sakhnin. Probably can't even go there now with the Antifada and things like that. But anyhow, so I went to a dentist office, and I was in the lobby, and because I went to present the Prabhupada's books in Hebrew and Arabic to the dentist, and I was waiting, and in the lobby there was a calendar. There was a calendar, just like we have picture calendars of different things. And then so on this particular picture in this month, there was in the foreground, there was an Israeli soldier, with holding the gun, and kind of a little blurry in the background, there was a Palestinian boy, maybe 12, 13 years old, his arm cocked with a big rock, clearly about to throw it at the head of the Israeli soldier. So that was the picture calendar. We all look back. I didn't look at the other months, but that was on that month. And so anyhow, so that inspired me to write this article, and I didn't even know about desktop or laptop computers. I didn't have access to a typewriter, and so I hand wrote it and sent it back to Godhead offices in Philadelphia. The article is called A Farce of Fate. So I said, okay, let's play out that scene. Let's play out that scene, and let's say the Palestinian adolescent throws the rock, and the soldier turns, or one of his friends turns, and they kill the Palestinian boy. Okay, so now that spirit soul in the body called Palestinian, well, yam yam vapisman vavam tyajidanti klevam tam tamevit kontir sadatan bhavabhavita. Whatever state of consciousness we're absorbed in at the time of death, that'll take us to our next body. So I said, okay, he's absorbed in Israeli soldier. Okay, Jewish soldier. So maybe that soul, Karmana, David Nate Trina Jantor Deho Papataye. Maybe that soul through consciousness and karma enters into the womb of a Jewish woman in a affluent section of Tel Aviv, maybe Savion, okay, and so maybe Ramat Aviv, and so then he takes birth, and maybe when he becomes 18 years old, he goes through his basic training, and he gets a gun, and he's in the same village, maybe he's in the same village in Ramallah or something like that. Then he's guarding, and he's talking to his soldier friends, like, oh yeah, we need to watch out for them nasty Palestinian boys. Okay, so just 18 years earlier, he was the Palestinian boy. Right? So these are all material masks. These are all false identifications. And so we water the root of the tree. The root of the tree is Krishna. In that same verse in Bhagavatam, it gives another analogy, serving the stomach. Just like if the hand has food, its function is to serve the stomach. And then the hand's happy, the hand's peaceful. We serve the root of the tree. Whereas the other way, let's say if the hand thinks, I'm the controller, I'm the enjoyer, I will enjoy this food. Why should I serve it to the stomach? I'm not going to submit. I'm the controller, the enjoyer, and the hand tries to enjoy the food. It's a very obnoxious thing. It's just obnoxious. But if the hand says, yes, I'm a humble servant of the stomach, then everyone's happy. So we serve the root of the tree, and then all the then all the nations, all the races, all the genders, all the species, and that's important, but all the species, because someone would say, I'm a humanitarian. And what's this dead chicken on my plate? Okay, like that. So this is the science of how the world can be peaceful. Prabhupada's giving the peace formula. And Okay, so I'll read the verse again. This is text 28, Canto 2, Chapter 6. Iti sambrita sambara pusha vayaveraham tameva pusham yagyam tenaiva yajamishvaram. Thus I created the ingredients and paraphernalia for offering sacrifices. No. Thus I created the ingredients and paraphernalia for offering sacrifice out of the parts of the body of the Supreme Lord, the enjoyer of the sacrifice, and I performed the sacrifice to satisfy the Lord. Hare Krishna, thanks for your presence and welcome. If anyone would like to ask any questions or share any comments or realizations. Eze.
Hare Krishna, David, thank you for class. This morning during my my Java period, I came upon a lot of resentment that I have towards Krishna, and maybe you can help me dispel some hopefully erroneous understanding. So I hear often that Bhakti, devotional service, that love can't be forceful because then it's not love, and so like that makes sense. Though, okay, like I'm extremely attached to enjoying the material world, and in my mind, like I don't see it as like I have so much free choice. It's like these like loaded options, like, well, okay, you're free as to enjoy the material world, but you're gonna suffer, or you can serve me and be happy. And like in my mind, I said, well, why can't Krishna make it so that I can enjoy the material world without without all these like painful negative consequences? If not even a blade of grass moves without his will. I mean, he created a system where like it's biased towards like I'm only gonna be happy if I serve him, and so like the way that I'm seeing it, I'm not seeing it as like really free choice. Can you help me clarify something in my mind?
Thanks for sharing vulnerably, Eze. I hear you. Up to this point, resentment came up. Yeah, like, okay, so Krishna set up this system and it seemed very biased towards him. So-called we have free choice, but if we don't use our free choice to serve him, then we suffer like anything. So that's like those sorts of, that way of thinking. It's a source of resentment for you. I hear that. Well, let's see. I mean, the government and state and how it comes.
I'm not hearing you anymore, dear Govinda. Somehow, it's
Okay.
it's
You hearing? Are you hearing me?
right now, yeah.
Yeah, the government and state analogy, like, okay. So we could, and this is, we're talking about ideal government here. We could be resentful for the government. Because look, the government has it set up that I so-called, I have free choice to murder people, but not really, because the way they have it set up is like if I murder people, then I go, then I go to the electric chair. So what sort of choice is that? Or if I murder people, then I spend life in prison where there's all this barbed wire, and so it's not really a free choice. I want free choice to be able to murder people and be happy and free. Now we can say, oh no, but I just want to enjoy material nature. I don't want want to hurt anyone. I don't want to hurt anyone. I just want to enjoy material nature. But this is, enjoying material nature means I lack empathy and I'm committed. See, we don't say this because it's a beautiful world. Enjoying material nature, it means murder people. Enjoying material nature means I will exploit others for the enjoyment of my body and my ego. We can paint a nicer pic, you know, we can paint a pretty picture. I just want to enjoy on the beach, and I don't want to murder people. But the whole idea is like, you know, resentment means there's like some expectation of others unfulfilled. So yeah, like Krishna should just create the sky and the ocean and the sand for me to enjoy in the beach, like that. And that without me having to serve him or even remember him, okay? Without me having gratitude or anything. Just really, this God figure should just create sunny days for me, for the enjoyment of, not for me, because that's the thing, Krishna does make an arrangement for our amazing enjoyment. He creates an arrangement for our bliss of the soul. Yeah, well, I want to forget that I'm a soul and pretend that I'm a body. And ahastani sahastanam apadanam chatuspadam paguni tachamatam jivo jivasu jivanam. That's a verse from Narada Muni. And he's saying, this material world, the material enjoyment means the place where one living entity is food for another. For material food, one living entity will exploit and kill and subjugate another. That's what it means. I want material enjoyment. Essentially, we're saying the analogy is correct. Like, why doesn't the government set up a system where I can just murder people and steal people's money from the bank and enjoy like anything? I resent the government that they don't do that. Or we could be like, well, I really appreciate that the government, you know, sets up the system of laws and regulations, including the prison system, to support and encourage us to be law-abiding citizens. Because by being law-abiding, then I'm free to go to the park and go to the beach, and I'm free to do my business. And I really appreciate this system that the government set up for my happiness. So Krishna has set up a system for our unending, ever-deepening, ever-expanding bliss of the soul. And we can choose, no, I don't want that system. I want the system where I murder people. And that's important to get. Material enjoyment means I will exploit another living entity for the enjoyment of my body and material ego. That's the nature of material enjoyment. And God should set it up. God should set it up that the whole system is arranged for my enjoyment, my exploitation of others for some petty gratification, without me needing to experience any consequences for that mentality. And the fact that God doesn't set it up that way, I resent that. Hare Krishna. What's happening for
you? I feel challenged by your answer. I found your answer to be quite intense. At first I was saying, well, I don't really think that I'm killing people, but okay, like if I think about eating, I guess I'm killing entities, or like sex enjoyment for pleasure, I'm killing potential entities. So I can see what you mean about at least most of the sense enjoyment that I can think of being about killing some entity. So your analogy makes sense. At first, it didn't make sense, but if I sit with it and try to make it make sense, yeah, I can see how I would be killing things.
Okay, I hear my comments felt challenging for you. It will feel challenging for you. At the same time, as you process, you're opening up to the truth there. Thank you, Isaiah. And I'll add, because like this murder, it's yeah, that's a very strong analogy, and it's true in a direct sense. It's not even an analogy, and it's also true in a more subtle sense. The Canto Bhagavatam describes about the killer of the soul, the butcher, and anyone who's not using their energies for self-realization is a killer of the soul. Of course, the soul is eternal. Only material body is just, but still a killer of self-realization. Because like, okay, even let's say, looks like, like, let's say, okay, if we're having not purposeful sex life. Okay, so then for this other person, and they get sex enjoyment, sex pleasure, and that deepens their misidentification of the self with the body, which is the source of all fear and misery. That it is described, spiritual realization and sex pleasure go ill together. Of course, there is sex pleasure that can be dovetailed in Krishna consciousness. But we won't get into that. But I'm just using this as like a more subtle form of the murder exclamation. So let's say even I'm giving someone, I'm engaging in some temporary material gratification, and then it furthers the illusion that I am the body and I will be happy by satisfying the body. That whole consciousness which I'm supporting, that's the source of all fear, of all anxiety, and I'm really supporting them to kill their spiritual life and to kill their chances of actually experiencing the bliss of the self. So it's true when we're walking, we're killing entities, we're killing entities. That's what the whole prasadam process is about. That's what. Okay, but if we're walking or driving a car and it's for a kirtan program, okay, then it's karma free. That we understand. But there is so much killing, and it might mean that in the next life I'll be an ant, I'll be stepped on by someone who just wants to enjoy life without any God consciousness. So that's karma. And at the same time, in more subtle ways, that if through our consciousness and activities that we're promoting the false bodily concept of life, we are filling the world with suffering and misery. I want to add that.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate you adding the subtle version of murder. That's maybe more like relatable. It's like easier for me to take that in. Hare Krishna, thank you.
Thank you, Gaetano. Oh, I'm not hearing you. Yeah, that's your word.
Now?
Yeah, now I'm hearing you.
Okay. Hare Krishna, thank you for your class, dear Govinda. I would like to share a little bit about my process. It was similar where Eze was at. Well, maybe directly feeling resentment and feeling like, well, you know, why did Krishna create this Is the sound distorted?
We're good now. We're good. I just put someone on.
Yeah, so yeah, I was feeling similar resentment and why did Krishna create this situation where, I can't just freely enjoy. And then I feel like just finding out more about the whole philosophy and context in which like the material world is a prison. It's designed and intentionally for us to wake up to like the reality of who we are, which is part and parcel of Krishna. And Krishna wants us to it gives us the opportunity by coming here and to wake back up to that reality, and then like seeing how it's kind of like, for me, I came to a point where it was just kind of like, well, it's like if you stick your hand in fire and you get burned, then that's just nature of fire. And then kind of seeing like this world, like this world is like coming to a point where I just had to accept like, well, this is the context in which I'm a part of, and I can either choose to accept it or I can continue to choose to reject, like, no, I want something different. I want a different paradigm. I want Krishna to create a different situation for me. And so I think that was like a helpful direction for me, was just coming to terms with like, this is what Krishna created. This is Krishna created this opportunity for me, and I can either choose to accept it or I can continue to reject it. So I guess that was like helpful for my process, and maybe you could say a little bit more about that, dear Govinda, because I know that I had this same conversation with you regarding my experience with Krishna consciousness.
Thanks for your sharing, Bhakti Gaetano. I appreciate you very much. I don't know that I have more to say. I'm hearing you're seeing yourself in Eze's sharing and Eze's process. You're seeing yourself in that process. Maybe not as so much now as maybe a few months, year, two or 3 years ago. And so I appreciate your sharing. Like, there's this system for us to be unlimited, and we can spend our life cursing the system. It should be a different system. That, okay, we could do that. Similarly, like in the state analogy, there's a system where, as a citizen, I can be free and happy and do as I please. And the system is I follow the laws. I drive on the right side of the road, or left side if it's England, and I stop at stop signs, and I don't steal, right? And if I do steal, I very much like the way you said that, Gaetano. Like, if I touch fire, I'll get burned. Okay, then I can fire's hot, fire burns, fire causes damage. No fair, no fair, no fair. I can just say I got burned. Okay, I get it. I'm not going to touch fire. Okay, so I steal, I go to prison, and that's very confining. Again, I'm not going to steal, and that's my real happiness. I could curse the government, I could resent the government, or I can accept the context, follow the laws, be happy and free citizen, contribute to society in a positive way. I can accept Krishna's system, and I appreciate these lines of thinking, and at least for myself at this point, and I've been kind of studying Prabhupada's books for about 40 years. Actually, I started studying Prabhupada's books in 1980 and training japa since 1983. Even the system, it's even apart from, even the system itself makes sense. And I really, as intelligent as I am, I really can't think of a better system if I'm really honest and objective and not just me centered. Why can't the system be that? And so so the government or Krishna it sets up a system for our happiness, our bliss, our freedom, our security, our fearlessness. And it's a system where we all serve the root of the tree and relate to each other with God in the center. It's actually a beautiful system. And again, and then if we choose not that, then we experience some burn of fire, and then we can respond to that context with, yeah, let me enthusiastically serve Krishna instead. So I appreciate your sharing and process, Gaetano. I appreciate, the essence of your sharing is to not be resigned to the context. Well, this is the way Krishna set it up, but I experience you as accepting the context as a foundation for progressive, purposeful, joyful living. Thank you.
Thank you, David. I wanted to share one more thing is stepping out of this idea of that I'm separate from Krishna, or I'm something other than what this philosophy presents me to be. So me just giving myself to this paradigm is really, it's a process, and it was helpful for me to say, okay, well, maybe I am a spirit soul. Maybe I am supposed to be in the spiritual world. So what am I doing here? Maybe I need to get out of here, or just kind of giving myself in more of a relaxed way to kind of let go or be detached from this material world and all the things that I enjoy here, to open myself to the possibility that maybe there's everlasting enjoyment in the spiritual world that is for me, and not just kind of pulling me out of my material consciousness. I think that is like a helpful part of the process. Right. You want to say something?
I want to add something.
Dominique wants to add something.
Are you done?
Yeah, I'm done.
I saw his hand reaching for the mute button. I was like, oh wait. Hare Krishna. There's someone unmuted. Anyway, I was just thinking about this analogy of participating in rules of society, and how much I want other people to do that, because it makes me feel safe, and I want to be safe where I'm living, where I'm at. And applying that to the spiritual world, I prefer to be surrounded by people who are following the spiritual laws. That makes me feel safe, and that creates sacred space for my self-realization. And that's why I guess that's why I choose spiritual association, so that I can have my spiritual life be protected and safe and guided. So that was just an added angle, well, if I want that for myself, I want to be surrounded, I want to be in a sacred space, I want to be safe in society, I want people to follow the rules for my benefit, then it would make sense to surrender and also follow the rules to create that for others. So it's just an added angle about why it's nice to follow the laws, whether it's societal or spiritual, whatever they are. It's creates an environment for everybody.
For everyone's peace and joy, you want to create community that is law abiding, and you don't want to be a hypocrite. you want to be an example of that, not just to follow the rules, because that's really the system for everyone's peace and joy and fulfillment. Thanks for that. And with Gaetano's last piece of sharing, just to extend the body analogy, like, okay, the hand could complain, protest, why do I need to feed the food to the stomach? Or the hand can accept, like, yeah, okay, I'm a part of this body and I have a function to feed the food to the stomach. And by doing that, I'm nourished and I'm healthy and like that. So that's what I heard in your sharing, Gaetano, like as you practice Bhakti Yoga year after year, more and more accepting that, yeah, maybe I am a spirit soul, servant of Krishna. My actual home is the spiritual realm. So let me act with that understanding, and let me surrender to that understanding, which is what we get from Parampara authorities. Thank you, Dominique and Gaetano. Thanks for your sharing. Gajendra Prabhu.
Good morning, Hare Krishna. As I'm listening to this, what keeps coming to me is that there's some kind of connection to victim consciousness. Sort of like this idea like, oh, big Krishna, he's in control of everything and he's got this system and, you know, I can't, it just keeps coming up to me, this connection to victim consciousness.
I really appreciate that paradigm. That paradigm. Yeah, there's an assumption of yes, I'm being crushed and oppressed by God, but like that, rather than like, wow, there's this supreme personality who wants my best interest more than me, and he's emanating a system to support me in that, and yeah, and rather than a victim consciousness, we get to be in gratitude consciousness and responsibility consciousness, that I'm responsible for choosing the material mask, and I'm responsible for my suffering and for my joy, depending on what I choose within the system emanating from Suridam Sarvabhutanam. That, yeah, I'm not a victim here. Krishna is my best friend. Krishna is my best friend. I very much appreciate that paradigm. And it's a true paradigm. It's not just a thought exercise. Hare Krishna. Thanks, Gajendra. Thank you. Bhakti George.
Hare Krishna, David. Yeah, I just want to add what I connected with in your sharing about Krishna being our best friend, and the notion that every decision or every inspiration that I've had where I felt really connected to Paramatma, to higher guidance, has led me to a state of peace, has led me to a state of fulfillment, to a joyful state, and having some experience of that. Why wouldn't I want to sacrifice for that guy who's got me there, you know, versus many examples between, you know, significant others or bosses at work where I have sacrificed so much and hit or miss, maybe not kind of thing. And in connection with that idea of why not sacrifice for that friend who has really led me to some of the best decisions of my life. I'm reminded of that analogy that you shared in your Friday morning program of 338, where Prabhupada likens the spirit soul to a fire starting, you know, with smoke, and thinking to myself, and how he connects that, you know, connecting with that source will make you a blazing fire. And looking at myself, it's like, I don't want to be, who wants a smoky fire? You know, like nobody wants that. So that's just kind of that analogy was kind of connecting with me in the mood of making that sacrifice and choosing to do it because he is my best friend and I have some inkling of realization of that. So I just wanted to share that.
Thanks for sharing, Dr. George. I appreciate very much all parts of your sharing. Yes, that, and I can relate to that when I have at this point thousands, tens of thousands of experiences that when I choose the Krishna conscious path, I'm peaceful, blissful, satisfied. And when I'm choosing the path of the material mask, then I'm fearful, in anxiety, and just like the results of the experiment are very clear. The evidence is very clear that wow, by following this path that we get from Krishna through Srila Prabhupada, this is joyful. This is my bliss. This is freedom from my tormenting mind. I've experienced it again and again. And then, of course, there's frustration at my own foolishness for choosing the material exploitative path again and again. Still, as my life goes on, I can't deny the evidence of what is the joyful path. And wow, yeah, I like it that person who's creating that joyful path and encouraging me in that direction. I get it. Yeah, that's my real friend. Yeah, why not continue to serve and sacrifice in that direction? And then, yeah, Srila Prabhupada gives several analogies about fire. One is like, okay, there's the blazing fire. There's the blazing fire. And that's like the soul in transcendence, the sparks in the fire, the soul in transcendence. Now, if a spark leaves the fire and lands on water, it's completely extinguished. That represents like the mode of ignorance. Of course, the soul's never completely extinguished, but it means lower species. If the spark leaves the fire and lands on like dry earth, you can still see the spark. And that's like passion, rajas. And so if the spark leaves the fire and lands on like grass, and it can start another fire, that's like, okay, leaving transcendence, but at least going to sattva. Similarly, Prabhupada gives the idea of like, just like the dry wood is like tamas. And then okay, when it's smoking, it's hot, it's smoking. Okay, there's like some rajas there. And when it's actually flaming, okay, then you can actually use the fire. You can use it for cooking like that. And that's like sattva guna. So we're encouraged to follow rules and regulations, that regulative principles. Krishna described it, he uses the term regulative principles of freedom to follow regulative principles of freedom that bring us to sattva guna. And sometimes Prabhupada describes that, like, actually at initiation, at least one, if not more initiation lectures, Prabhupada gives the example of like sattva guna. It's where it's like if the wood is wet, sattva guna is like the fire, and then it's heat, and then the wood is dry, and then it's ready for the fire of transcendental knowledge. Hare Krishna, thank you. Other comments or questions?
Hare Krishna.
Dr. Patrick, Hare Krishna.
Hi. So hearing Eze, I think it's really, all of us are in that position, you know, with that feeling. That's why we're all here, that feeling resentful of Krishna. Or maybe sometimes when there's resentment, underneath the resentment, there's some appreciation or admiration or envy, jealousy, you know. And so we're all here because of that, like some form of resentment or envy of like, why is Krishna innocent, or why is he set it up this way? Why are we all doing it this way? And it can come in different forms. But I think, and as a sharing, he first mentioned, you know, free will. And I think, you know, it comes back to that, to free will, because free will, for free will, there has to be a choice. And so Krishna wants that we're lovingly, you know, engaging with him. He wants to enjoy our, relationship, and that we're loving and putting him in the center. And then for there to be a choice, there has to be an alternative. And for a choice to be real, there has to be some kind of effect of the choice. Because if we could say, well, I choose to love Krishna, but if I don't choose to love Krishna, then I get the same result anyway. And that's not a real choice. Choice means you choose between two things, or different things, and there's a different result of that choice. Otherwise, it's not really a choice. Because if you make a different choice but has the same result, then so that's what I'm thinking, is that so this karma comes in because of free will. Like karma is like innate to free will, so that there's different results for every action. That's choice, that's free will. And but then this experience of feeling resentful or envious of Krishna, I mean, it can come up in so many different ways. And it can be because no matter what we say, like, well, Krishna could have arranged it differently. No matter what the situation is, we could always say, well, Krishna set it up this way. Why did he do that? Why is he doing that to me? So that comes back to the core. It's really the core issue of surrendering to Krishna, being willing to, well, this is what he wants. Why questioning God? Why did God do it this way? It's like a core. It's the core emotional experience of, like, experiencing that, maybe questioning or envy or doubt or jealousy, resentment towards God. And then, we could do that, or we could surrender and just, well, this is what Krishna wants. This is what Krishna, the arrangement that Krishna, wants. So those are my thoughts.
I appreciate the philosophical and spiritual intelligence in your thoughts, Bhakti Patrick. Thank you. I like how you get to the core, because the core, at the core, I think a way I could like rephrase what I'm understanding you're saying is like, well, there's personhood, personalism, that the absolute is a person. Person means, yeah, I like to do it this way. I like to do it that way. But so at the core is like, at the core is really the supreme person should be me. The supreme person should be me, and it's not, and it's someone else, and I resent that, and I'm envious of that, and so and so there's the supreme person. Now it's one thing, because we're not, again, to just emphasize this point again and again, the supreme personality, Sri Krishna, personality of Godhead. It's not like, well, he's just this like mean, nasty character and we need to accept. No, he's actually our best friend, wanting our fulfillment and bliss a lot more than we do. He's really our best friend. And and he set it up a different way. He set up a different way than my material ego would want. But that's kind of making the statement, I want to be the supreme person, and I'm envious of the supreme person and how he chose to do things. So thanks for that sharing, Dr. Patrick. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavatam. Hare Krishna.
Right.
Thank you all. Hare Krishna. Jai Vaishnava Association. Hare Om.